In my presentation, I'll focus on Canada and how the government responded to COVID-19. But first, I'll talk about the background of the country for deeper understanding of its plans and decisions. So, in 1867, 3 colonies united to form Canada. Today, Canada includes 10 provinces and 3 territories. According to Canada's government, the significant difference between the territories and the provinces is that the territories exercise delegated powers under the authority of the Parliament of Canada, while the provinces exercise constitutional powers. As shown on the graph about the demographics and the radical changes that happened over time, the foreign-born population living in Canada has become more ethnoculturally diverse since the early 1980s. Aboriginal population, or the Indigenous Canadian, which consists of 3 groups, one of them is the First Nation that appears on the screen, represents 4.3% of Canada's overall population, and most of them are from economically disadvantaged class. Based on the Canadian Income Survey in 2018, the market basket measure states that 10% of the Canadians accounted for 23% of the Canada's total income, while the lowest 40% of the population represented 20.8%. According to Bryce and others, the gap in the income between poor and rich, or the socioeconomic inequality factors, contribute to the gap in the Canadian educational system. So the dropout rate in the low-income communities increases to 30% to 50%. Price continues explaining that the top 10% of Canada's earners more likely attain high academic degrees, while the students from economically and educationally disadvantaged families are left behind. Despite the COVID-19 outbreak that negatively influenced the economy worldwide and the recession that Canada specifically may face, as shown on the graph, the Canadian economy is growing slowly but steadily. This significant enhancement in the economy caused the overall poverty rate to decline from 9.5% in 2017 to 8.7% in 2018, which has a good return on education and health. According to Waddington, Canada ranks near the top compared to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development countries in academic credentials earned, but near the bottom in numeracy and literacy skills. Waddington attributes that to the decentralized model in education that Canada follows. So in Canada, the decentralized model of education consists of 13 ministers overseeing education in each of Canada's provinces and territories. Canada has special attributes which cause significant differences between the educational system in the different provinces. For example, there is the English Canada and French Canada, as well as the provincial and territorial governments that govern and fund education. Some stages in the Canadian education systems are mandatory and some others are optional. So the pre-elementary at the age of 4 and 5, this optional. Primary and secondary stages are mandatory, while post-secondary education, which is college and universities, is optional too. Types of education in Canada. So we can find vocational schools which offer a vocational training, public schools which are funded by the government, private schools which are not funded by the government, and religious schools that teach the regular school curriculum and religious teachings. About how the government responded to the pandemic. So due to the COVID-19, the majority of Canadian schools closed in March amid the pandemic. The closure decisions differed from province to another based on the number of cases and the precautions. For example, some provinces rushed to reopen under precautions and restrictions, while others preferred to continue closing and preparing different scenarios for fall, like Ontario and Alberta. The same procedures have been taken with the universities and colleges. So, most universities and colleges canceled the in-person classes and went to online classes after a petition was presented by the students to prevent the virus spread. British Columbia province partially reopened in late March and completely in June with 50% capacity in the elementary schools. Also, Quebec reopened in May, though schools in the hard-hit Montreal region have remained closed. The Canadian government developed many awareness resources on hand washing, wearing masks, and how to isolate to protect the kids, adults, and their families. Also, it created an app to alert people if they had a direct contact with a virus carrier. However, closing schools is not an option. Although many new cases are recorded in different schools across the Canadian provinces since the reopening, the health officials state that it's a low percentage compared to the numbers of schools that are operational.